In the world of NASCAR, there's fast, and then there's too fast. One car crossed that line, not just by winning races, but by completely breaking the system. It was so far ahead of its time that NASCAR didn't just penalize it. They changed the rulebook to make sure no one ever built anything like it again. This is the story of the Dodge Charger Daytona, the car that was so dominant it had to be banned forever. The year is 1969. The Vietnam War is raging, man is landing on the moon, and in America, stock car racing is reaching new heights. NASCAR is booming in popularity, with brand loyalty spilling over into the racetrack. But Dodge? The company knows it needs a miracle to stay in the game. They break the rules, not in the book, but in spirit. Enter the Dodge Charger Daytona. The front is stretched into a long, needle-like cone to 18 inches longer than the normal Charger, and on the back, but in the wind tunnel, it was no joke. And that massive rear wing? It wasn't just for show. It created real downforce without increasing drag. Dodge had turned an ordinary muscle car into an aerodynamic weapon. NASCAR had never seen anything like it, and neither had the competition. In its debut race at Talladega in September 1969, the Charger Daytona made history. It became the first NASCAR vehicle to break 200 miles per hour in qualifying. The Daytona wasn't just better, it was in another league. But the Daytona's debut also came with controversy. That same Talladega race was plagued by a driver boycott. In the end, the Daytona took the win. But NASCAR knew it had a problem. The speeds were getting dangerous, and the manufacturers were just getting started. Dodge's sister company Plymouth released their own version, the Plymouth Superbird, a long nose, high wing, and slippery profile. Suddenly, races weren't about driving skill. They were about who had the better aero package. Driving a Dodge Charger Daytona, Isaac wasn't just winning races, he was setting records. In 1970, he captured the NASCAR Grand National Championship. He also set a closed-course speed record of 201.104 miles per hour at Talladega, a record that stood for 17 years. In 1971, he took the Daytona to the Bonneville Salt Flats and broke 28 different speed records. This wasn't just dominance. It was a total redefinition of what a stock car could be. NASCAR was panicking. The speeds were pushing the limits of tire safety, track design, and human reaction time, and fans weren't excited. They were scared. One or two winged cars way out front, and everyone else left in the dust. It wasn't good for competition, and it definitely wasn't good for business. So in 1971, NASCAR did what racing organizations always do when technology gets too far ahead of the show. Under the new regulations, any car with advanced aerodynamics, like the Daytona S-Wing and nose, would be limited to a 305 cubic inch engine. That was a death sentence. The rest of the field could still run massive 426 HEMs and big block V8 South. So while the Daytona and Superbird still looked fast, they had no power to back it up, and just like that, the most advanced stock cars in NASCAR history vanished from the track. It was the end of the aero wars, and for Dodge, it marked the end of a golden age. They had built a car so far ahead of its time that the only way to stop it was to change the sport itself. So why did it happen? Why would NASCAR shut down innovation? Because NASCAR isn't just a racing series, it's a business. And in NASCAR's eyes, close racing, tight finishes, and side-by-side action matter more than outright speed. The Daytona was an engineering triumph, but it broke the formula. Fans couldn't relate to it. Drivers couldn't catch it, and the show suffered. Today, the Dodge Charger Daytona is more than a footnote in racing history. Only 503 were ever built for street use, just enough to satisfy NASCAR's homologation rules. They're now among the most collectible muscle cars in the world, with auction prices soaring into the hundreds of thousands. It's a car that represents a moment in time when engineers were let off the leash, and the results were so extreme that the sport had to reel them back in. And here's the wildest part, the basic principles of the Daytona. Long front overhang, high downforce, minimal drag, would later become standard in high-speed motorsports. From Le Mans to Formula One. What Dodge pioneered in 1969 set the stage for the future of racing aerodynamics. They were just too early, too aggressive, too fast. The Dodge Charger Daytona didn't just break records, it broke the rules of what NASCAR thought a car could be. And even now, over 50 years later, no one has ever built anything quite like it again. Because when you create something so fast that it scares the sport into changing forever, you don't just make history, you become it, like this story. Then you're exactly the kind of viewer we're making this channel for. So hit that like button and subscribe to the Sports Files for more insane, forgotten, and borderline unbelievable moments in sports history. We've got plenty more coming, and some of them make this one look normal.